I just wanted to give you over the next little bit here just some general information, but then really talk about this upcoming year and some of the past successes from 2023. First, as I always try to do at our quarterly board meetings, and the annual meeting is just kind of a quick look at what we have seen when it comes to jobs. Um, and as poor of an indicator to me as the IDES, Illinois Department of Employment Security, jobs and employment numbers are, it's really one of the only ways we have to kind of get some recent data on where things are at. And I would say that modest growth is maybe the theme of the year. If you look from January 2023 through November, which is the most recent data is available. This is at the MSA level, so this wouldn't include Mason and Logan counties, but it would include Marshall and Stark. But it's the easiest way to kind of grab this information in total. The blue line is jobs, non-farm jobs, which are where the job is located. The red line is employed persons, which is where the person lives. So you've seen a lot more, I wouldn't call it volatility, but a little bit more difference month to month in the employed persons. Pretty steady trajectory for the total overall jobs. But important that we ended the year with more of each than we started the year. We did see kind of a little drop in jobs from its peak and a little drop from employed persons. That actually picked up and almost caught up in the November, and I'm hoping that happens. That trend continues. We should have the December numbers. They usually take an extra week because they do some data cleanup. So I think it's the last week of January we'll get the December numbers, and that'll give us the year end to take a look at. Let's see here. So 2024, and I think you're going to find this, and if you kind of read through the budget memo, you'll see this maybe more than anywhere else, is really going to be a year of change for the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council. But I think not in a bad way. We certainly are going to look a little bit different, and we're going to look a little bit bigger. We lost two really key staff people, one of whom at least is on the line, in Lenora, when she departed for her job at Intersect Illinois, and Andrew who went to work for the city of Kansas City, Missouri, as our director. He was our director of business, innovation and startup. So in thinking through how to fill those positions and seeing the landscape of what we needed as an organization, and I worked with the board on this, kind of two things that are happening, one on either end of these bullet points. One is to split the business attraction duties between myself, kind of handling relationship management, and being more of the face of the organization and helping to tell that story to the rest of the world, as Dan alluded to, and then hiring what we're calling a research and insights manager. This actually was one of the suggestions that Lenora had made when we were transitioning her to her new role, around the need for real data management. It's a numbers game often, and the RFIs that Dan referred to and I referred to earlier are usually very data rich in requesting information. So we need somebody to really manage that. And then that person will also really be able to help organization-wide and really region-wide to help us understand the numbers a little bit better, to both develop and uncover and then share information about our region to help us track our own progress as an organization, to help us and our partners understand just how things are going, and where there may be opportunities or places that need some attention. So that'll be a real key position that we're hiring for right now. So if you know anybody who is good with data and good with data sharing, that's a good spot for them. The very last bullet point about startup and innovation. Now that Doug Cruitt, who I think I saw his name on there, is up and running as the executive director of Distillery Labs, and it is under construction and hopefully opening next summer. Not hopefully, it will open next summer. I have to stop talking about hopefully. It's happening. We're transitioning over that work of building the ecosystem of our startup ecosystem to Distillery Labs and the other partners in the region, like the Small Business Development Center, Peoria Next. But we talk often about the sometimes confusing silos that we build in our region around who's doing what. And we felt it was important that Distillery Labs take on that role. And there didn't need to be a startup person at GPEDC. So they will be handling that work, obviously with our support, and because it's a very important economic development initiative. So we will use our other staff to augment those services. But also in 2024, and I think you're going to see this, is a real emphasis on business outreach activity. And BRE visits, or business retention and expansion visits, is really the block and tackling of economic development. And I think that the reason that we really want to focus on this is twofold, or maybe even threefold. First, it's helping our existing businesses grow. When we're able to have conversations with our business owners in their facilities, understand what where their opportunities are and where they might be struggling, and either help them directly or make referrals to the right resources. We're helping them grow, and we do it all the time, but we want to do it more. And there are so many interesting companies in our community, but we have kind of because we do so much as an organization, sometimes these business outreach visits have taken kind of a back seat to some of the other work. So we're kind of redoubling our efforts around business assistance. It also, though, helps with business attraction because our current businesses that are here have capabilities that we need to understand so that we can best leverage those capabilities to attract companies or companies that help fill a void that our own companies might say is lacking here. But also they have relationships within their own professional networks outside of the region that we can leverage, so that if we meet somebody like Robert Herman at Rio Engineering, who works in the pharmaceutical industry, he has contacts at pharmaceutical companies all across the country and all across the world. So that's also helpful. And then third, it just helps with investor relations, right? The more people we talk to, the more people as an organization, the more people we talk to, the more people we help, the more people that recognize the value of the organization, and that we connect the people with our own members. So we just recently had a request for construction company from an Italian company that's maybe looking to sell a product here that would require a physical building, and asked me for the names of 3 construction companies. Well, we have 3 investors who are construction companies, and so that was an easy thing to do when we had that. So that's why the importance of business attraction. We will also be assuming management of the Regional Workforce Alliance to kind of handling the day-to-day administration and management of the RWA, and under Jeffrey's leadership, and then along with Dr. Quick Bailey and Joshua Gunn as the co-chairs of that. And then really exciting, the Gilmore Foundation, Laura Cullinan, and Choose Greater Peoria turned to Greater Peoria EDC and asked if we would be the people that would help them build the mechanism, or I should say implement the mechanism for folks that indicate an interest in moving to Peoria. The Choose Greater Peoria initiative and the marketing campaign is working. People are clicking the buttons and filling out forms that say they're interested in Peoria and in the jobs that are here. But somebody needs to be there to catch those forms and catch those people. So through some grant funding that was arranged, I think, in large part due to Dr. Quirk Bailey and ICC, and some funding that Choose Greater Peoria is going to be getting, we will be hiring a full-time person whose job will be to talk to folks that have expressed an interest and help connect them with the jobs that are open in the community. So that's really exciting to me. So a year of change. We have 8 full-time employees now. We in the 2023 budget, we had the authorization, I should say, for 8 full-time employees. We're down to 6 at the moment. We'll have 10. So we're not replacing the director of business attraction or the director of business assistance. I'm sorry, Sally, I hope you didn't freak out. I didn't mean to mention your title, Director of Startups and Innovation. But instead, these are the new team members that we're going to have. The Workforce Solutions Specialist is going to be kind of a tactical asset, working with Jeffrey on all of our workforce things, along with the Regional Workforce Alliance projects. That person actually has been hired. Her name is Sarah. I can't pronounce her last name off the top of my head, but she'll be actually starting in the end of January. The talent attraction coordinator, we're in final interviews for that. Hopefully that person will come on along, on or around the end of January, early February. The research and insights manager I mentioned before is someone who's going to, that we're accepting resumes for right now. And then we're developing a business assistant specialist to work with Sally to really double down on outreach visits, but also to help Sally with some of the other programs that she does around enterprise zones and foreign trade zones and the defense network. Somebody who can really free her up to do some business visits as well, because it's what she's really, really good at. There's actually a 5th asset, we'll call it a 5th employee. That's the wrong terminology because they're actually a contractor. And we'll be able to share this a little bit more publicly in the coming weeks. But we were the recipient of what's called an Economic Recovery Corps Fellow. This is funded by the US EDA in partnership with a bunch of different organizations, but primarily with the International Economic Development Council. And this was a competition across the United States of economic development organizations, regional planning councils, and cities to get a full-time fellow for the next 30 months, starting either in February or early March. There were hundreds of applications across the country. We are one of 70 that were selected. The program, and so the fellow has been selected. We're not supposed to promote any of this quite yet, but we're really excited. She'll be joining us, like I said, in early February or sometime by the end of February, I think. And at the moment, her name is absolutely escaping me. If Kathy, if you're on, if you can remember, Dorsey, her name is Dorsey. I'm sorry, I do remember her name. Her job is going to be working on outreach as well, but specifically in our rural areas, in Mason and Logan counties, in Western Peoria County and Woodford County. There's a lot of work, to be done in business outreach, and sometimes we don't go to the more remote corners of our region where we know there are some really great businesses. So like Parsons in Roanoke and Inland Tool in Mount Pulaski. Those kinds of companies that also we want to be able to reach out to. So this Economic Recovery Corps is really great that we were able to get this. This is like this is like being awarded $300,000 to $350,000. So Dorsey will be with us for the next for 30 months, completely paid for. We don't even have to buy her a laptop. We don't have to pay for mileage or travel. Everything is kind of included. We did this actually in partnership with LEAD, which is the Economic Development Organization in Lincoln. So we are actually the host of GPEDC, but we'll also be partnering with Andrea Runge at LEAD, especially for the initial work. We're going to focus on Logan County to start with. So quickly, just some highlights across the organization in startup and innovation. I'm going to charge Andre Allen for this picture that was taken of him at the hammer swinging for Distillery Labs because it's gotten a lot of traction, but I love it. A huge victory for for the region, but also for Greater Peoria Economic Development Council in the beginning of construction of Distillery Labs. My predecessor, Jennifer Daly, in 2015 or 2016 helped launch the idea of Distillery Labs in what was then called Catalyst, with a feasibility study that was funded by Caterpillar and the US EDA. And to think now we're in 2024 and we're in the midst of construction takes a long time sometimes for good things to happen, but a really important economic initiative. And certainly something that I worked really hard on, Andrew worked really hard on, but the whole staff did as well. So also very happy to have Doug Cruitt join us as the new executive director. So a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from GPEDC when it comes to Distillery Labs. So something that's, we're really very positive about and happy to have been a part of. Also, the GBETA program has, nearly $1 million has been raised by GBETA graduates, and that's pretty impressive. And we continue to see some good successes in that program. For this coming year, our job is going to be to continue to support startup and innovation. We are not getting out of that business. Instead, we are just finding different ways of partnering. I think one of the areas that Greater Peoria EDC can be the most help in the startup and innovation is even in the attraction. How are we telling the story of Distillery Labs to startups that are not here? And how are we making those connections so that companies like DigiFarms, the Brazilian startup, ag tech startup company, or Manusys, startup organizations that are from outside of the area see value in being here, in the Peoria area. We're also moving in. We'll be tenants of Distillery Labs, so we won't be able to get rid of us even if they ask us to. Business attraction. And again, I would be remiss if I didn't thank Lenora here for so much of her great work through the first 3 quarters of the year. But really, it's been about expanding our international connections. Lenora took a trip to Germany and Southern Austria, went to the Select USA, trying to building relationships with foreign consulates. But we also had visits from 6 different countries, companies or delegations from 6 different countries who got to experience Peoria firsthand. And we could tell our story all we want. But at the end of the day, our story probably sounds a lot like other people's stories in the minds of some of these people who've never been to a place like Peoria. So actually having these companies come and visit us and really see firsthand what we're all about is the best way of doing storytelling. And then industrial development was a big part of our work and will continue to be a big part of our work. How do we identify land and buildings that can match up with these RFIs? As I mentioned earlier, we handled 74 requests for information. We've got, and only maybe half of them did we actually submit something for. We got a couple of site visits. We haven't really seen anything, we haven't won anything yet. But I do feel we're on the cusp of that. We have some really great property, but we need some more options to be able to throw into things. A couple of things for this next year. One is a targeted industry analysis. With the support of the board of directors, we used some of our own reserve funds, our strategic reserve funds, to match a US EDA grant that will allow us to hire a consultant to do a deeper dig into the assets of our region, to give us some direction on what sorts of industries and companies we might be pursuing based on those assets. And then obviously there's just to be a lot of emphasis on reorganizing our business attraction efforts as we bring on a data manager, but then also what my role will be. I'm going to be traveling a lot more in this next year, so I'm getting to learn that game a little bit as well. Let's see. In business assistance, the great work that Sally does, along with Dick Peplow at the running the manufacturing network, Linda Krendick, Brandon Hostetler on the defense side. This was our first full year of being a part of the ILDMCC. I know that just rolls right off the tongue. That's the Illinois Defense Manufacturing Consortium. Communities Consortium, our partners with our friends in the Quad Cities, Rockford, Chicago, IMEC, and the University of Illinois, Chicago. We also, Sally was such a big part of helping to restart the Port District, along with our friends at Tri-County Regional Planning Commission and Riverside Global and the board of Transport. I think that's going to really yield some really great investments and opportunities in the coming year. We're working, Tri-County Regional Planning Commission got a $500,000 grant to do a master port study that I think is going to yield some really great opportunities for us to be looking at how to maximize this thing in the river that not a lot of other people can say that they have. Our whole staff has really done really great work on these back to business grants. In this year alone, almost $6 million delivered to local businesses through our Community Navigator Network. 2 new Greater Peoria Manufacturing Network members in Lozier Oil and Hardin Industries. And then in this next year, really it's to be about formalizing this expanded business outreach effort. We've purchased a software program that will help us track this so that we can report to you as investors what our interactions are and really capture that important data. We also have a lot of work, and Sally does a lot of this work around our enterprise zone, the Peoria County enterprise zone, but even have been working to help maybe the Mason County and the city of Havana take advantage of enterprise zones. This is, I wouldn't say it's complicated, but it can be complex work that gets done to make sure these incentives are in place. In rural development, we were able to, through Kathy's hard work, the Just Transitions Fund, gave us $150,000 to help support broadband. And so she has been working really hard in all of our counties to help them with broadband planning. Logan County just got named to the broadband lab at the state of Illinois, some planning information. We're doing feasibility studies in Peoria and Tazewell and Mason counties. This is all really great work. And that infrastructure that Dan talked about and how great the infrastructure in Illinois is very true. But we still know that we have parts of our communities that are not connected to fiber or to the internet as they need to be. A big role that Kathy played this year was with some Clean Energy and Jobs Act funding that came to our communities that were impacted by coal plant closures. And Kathy was able to help, not all alone, but help those communities secure almost $5.6 million in funding from CEJA. Some of that is helping with those feasibility studies. Some of that is going to help with distillery labs. Some of that's going to help fund our own business outreach efforts. And then AgTech Connect, this is maybe a good example of how we will continue to work in the startup space. AgTech Connect is a joint venture, we'll call it, of Morton EDC, Peoria Next, Bradley, Distillery Labs, and GPEDC, and probably a few I'm missing, to have quarterly meetups of our ag industry to really talk about innovation and startup opportunities. They've had a really great year. Both those pictures you see are of a meeting they had at CSC Software in downtown Peoria that really kind of talking about the agricultural industry. This coming year is a lot about broadband feasibility studies and getting those, not only those studies done, but then, hopefully implementing those studies and finding, projects that can be done by the private sector to light up more homes. And then, as I mentioned earlier, rural business outreach is going to be really important as well. How do we uncover those companies, not the bars and the restaurants and the retail shops in our communities, but those companies that have a market outside of their immediate area that we need to know more about and understand their capabilities. So that'll be a big part of this next year. Workforce solutions. I think Dan Seals had said it best about one of the strengths of Illinois is our workforce, and I'm glad he was able to call out the Illinois Central or the community college system. And we know we have not only a really great community college here in Illinois Central College, but really great institutions of higher learning in Bradley and Eureka as well. And workforce solutions is going to be even a bigger role in the coming years. We best understand that our best asset is the people that we have, and how can we talk about that, and how can we make it even better? So great year, Career Spark, over 3,500 students coming through the Civic Center, 5,000 students for the Year Hired online platform. Through a partnership with the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, we were able to launch our talent pipeline management for manufacturing, which will help. And also, we've already kind of started with the Regional Workforce Alliance, but really in this next year, some of the initiatives we want. Jeffrey's working right now on an outcomes report to start developing some marketing around how our Regional Workforce Alliance has actually operated and some of the positive successes that they've had. We want to launch a talent pipeline management for healthcare. And obviously, I'm putting up underneath Jeffrey this talent attraction role. Jeffrey actually has a really deep background in talent attraction or talent recruiting and placement. So it's a perfect fit for him, for that person to report to him. So that's going to be a big part of this next year. And last but not least, communications, and my friend David, who does such great work to help us share our story, both about the organization and about the region. One of the charges of the board of directors to me, and then I made it David's charge, was to do a better job of letting people know what we do. And so all of you received our first ever, not our first ever, our first in a while annual report last year. We've just, we're ahead of the game, and we actually had that, we busted ourselves and David to get it done so that we'd have it printed to give to you today. Well, we picked them up from the printer yesterday, but you'll all get them in the mail now. But I believe David has just put in the chat if you want to get a preview. There's a link to the webpage that hosts our annual report. But this is important. You as investors, share with us a portion of your treasures. We want to share with you how we're using them. An initiative into Choose Greater Peoria. I guess there's like 30 seconds. There's going to be a blank spot on the recording. And David helped the chamber with their Rise Summit. We're going to switch to do a little bit more program marketing and do now that we have kind of these organizational reporting, a process for that. We're going to switch to more program marketing. And then we're going to host an annual event in April. Speaking of which, I'll just give you this save the date. There's probably nobody on this call happier about this than Lenora, who I might be the first apostle of Jay Garner, but Jay is a site selector, but he wrote this great book called Economic Development is Not for Amateurs, and then the second edition, which is still not for amateurs. And Jay is going to be here in April, and we're going to have an economic development summit in a place yet to be determined. But this book we will have copies of this book available as well. I think it's 100 pages. It's a very easy read, but I think it's an important look at what communities need to do in order to be competitive in this environment. Jay is a really great guy. I've heard him speak a couple of times. Anyone who knows Lenora, you might even have a copy of a book. You might have borrowed her copy of the book. But I'm looking forward to this. April 24th, it'll be a breakfast event. We have sponsorships available. We haven't quite put all that together yet, but please mark your calendars, and we'll be getting more information out as some details come forward. And I think that's really it for me as a CEO report. This is it's so rare that the whole team is together at one spot. I wasn't in this picture because I had to leave early, but that's okay, because I really do want to say that this is an amazing team of people that I get the privilege to lead. And you, as either board members, investors, or just the partners that we invited to be part of this meeting, should be similarly proud. This is an incredible group of people who do a really incredible work. Economic development isn't easy because a lot of it is foundation laying. And you may not see the fruits of your efforts for quite a while when it comes to workforce and business assistance and business attraction. But the work is really important. We know how valuable we are, and we know the impact that we make. It can be difficult to describe, it can be difficult to count, but I know that this team is so well positioned and so professional in what they do. So I'm really excited to be a part of this. And this picture will be a little bit bigger next year as we have some additional folks. Don, I will turn this back over to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions. We have about 15 minutes left, and we have to get to this really itty bitty board meeting as well, but happy to answer questions if there are any.